Hi, I'm Hudson Williams, and you are watching The Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press today. I am so happy to be joined by Hudson Williams. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's so nice to meet you, and I can't wait to talk about your work in the first two episodes of Heated Rivalry. But to start off, I know that you describe your best friends as movies when you were growing up.
Mhm.
So, can you expand on that spark and comfort you found in films and how that manifested for you?
hmm Um, yeah, the comfort definitely came from just having a lot of time with them, a decent amount of alone time when I was growing up with no siblings. Um, and I think they just helped me understand who I was, and I had a lot of time to reflect on them. And not only were they an escape, they were also just, yeah, sort of a way to like self-reflect. And now it's sort of manifested in a really cool way where I get to be a part of them. But I feel like the feeling is still the same. I'm more in them now, but it's still the same feeling of sort of self-discovery and just learning.
I know you credited like Shawshank Redemption, Terminator, Indiana Jones as some of your favorites. I would say what
Mhm.
you create today is slightly different
Yeah,
from the tone
yeah.
of those movies, but
Uh-huh.
it must have been so fun to record skits and sketches with your friends. And then I know you edited them, which is something that
Mhm.
you kind of currently do on the behind the camera portion today, but what's really cool is you are a graduate of Langara College Film Arts. So can you tell me about your studies and experience in that program and the key lessons you took into your professional career?
Mm. Um, yeah, I owe a lot to Langara. It gave me a lot of friends for life and a lot of experience and tools to, I think, enter the film industry. Um, and sorry, what was the last part of your question? Just what was it?
What key lessons did you
Key
take
lesson.
with you?
Um, I would say that especially in film, it takes a team. Not only do you need a great director, but truly your sound guy is just as important as your number one, who's just as important as your gaffer. And so many things need to go perfectly just to have a good movie. And I think that's sort of just respect and sort of team attitude. You know, you're not special, you're a part of a bigger thing, was the biggest lesson I took.
That's so great. And you mentioned having friends for life and
Mhm.
probably still a lot of your frequent collaborators. So,
Yeah.
developing your own short films, how have you grown as a storyteller in this space? And what's it like getting to work alongside friends so often?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I definitely feel like I've grown as a filmmaker through, making my own things. It expanded a part of my brain that wasn't when I was just acting. I feel like creating stories is, in terms of writing wise, it's helpful now as an actor when now I can kind of look at it at a lens through writing and what they're trying to do with the characters. And having the friends around me to collaborate with them and actually be able to do it when I want to make something is just it's something special that I don't see a lot of, you know, art communities or a lot of cities having. So I'm just very grateful for that too.
What stories or themes do you find yourself drawn towards?
Stories or themes? Um, I wouldn't say I have a particular story or sort of even structure or anything that usually draws me in. I would say usually I would say like the passion of the storyteller or the person telling the story. Um, because at the end of the day, like someone who doesn't really care about a great story can still butcher it. Whereas someone who just has a very simple story, but they're just very passionate about the ways they tell it, and especially in film when style is a lot of it. I think passion is everything. So I think that's what I really look for.
And it's great to have that creative freedom, like as a filmmaker yourself. And I mean, these concepts and like buttons and dogging and Brim Reaper, and I mean, pole dancing on the Sky Train, that
Yeah,
might have been a
yeah.
first. Did you have to like shut down the Sky Trainer
I wish we had the money to shut down the SkyTrain, but
for
I
the
just
empty car?
yeah, it was pretty full when I started. I went in with sweatpants and a sweater, and I had that outfit underneath. And then it just kind of came time, and we're like, it was only 9:30 too. It was way too early to be doing all that. Um, but then it just kind of came time. I stripped. I walked to the end of the SkyTrain car, and there was my little three-person team on the other end. And slowly, people, I think, were just getting out at a stop that wasn't even their own because they just didn't want to be next to those hips.
They were like, we gotta get off right
Yeah.
now. But
Yeah.
I mean, you do what you gotta do for the art.
Hmm. Yes.
Big contrast from Snow Angel, which was a darker tone. So I know that you said you sat with that film for a while before putting it out on YouTube and releasing it. So how was that one to kind of create and get into a bit of a different story?
Yeah, that was the very first short film I directed and wrote. Um, so I think just came with a lot of, because of that, there was just a lot of things that went wrong, or at least if maybe I wasn't coming across that way, they still felt like I was messing up on the inside. Um, so every time I kind of sat down with it to edit, it just felt like, oh, you've messed this up, it felt like I was just trying to fix everything, and almost like guilt over not doing things properly, or doing things poorly. um but then finally, when I was able just to kind of look at it with some hindsight and some clear vision, I was like, this isn't bad, and I think it's all right, so I'll just release it.
I think it was great. And, it
Thank
is
you.
like a heavy story, especially in, Vancouver and some of the history. But
Yeah.
I think, to have all these projects on different sides of the spectrum as part of your digital footprint and repertoire today, how proud are you of what you've created?
mm, um that's a hard one to answer, because I feel like I just sort of prioritize the go next one, that I don't really sit with uh pride, or let myself feel too happy with any of them. But I'm more so just really proud of all the people that helped me make them, and all their contributions more than anything. Um, because all those short films are, and all those things I've done, even how silly or goofy or low brow, they're just all those people are like, yeah, let's do this. When are you doing it? And to, give up their time, and put everything into them. So that bit, I have a lot of pride in my friends and collaborators for.
Give shout outs to a few of them. I know
Yeah.
Zach and Mark are a couple
Zach,
of the
Mark,
ones.
Tristan, and Kelly, and two Sams, Sam Bat and Samantha LaRoche are, yeah, there's a lot. I'd be here for a long time if I named all of them, but yeah, yeah, I'm very grateful for all of them that have played any size of part in helping me.
And I'm sure some of them are also a part of Yoko Loko, which you
Yes,
have
yes.
upcoming. So, what details can you share about this one?
Ah, yeah, Yoko Loko is probably the most ambitious one I've done within like 4 or 5 years. And ideally, it's a proof of concept to serve as a pitch for a feature version of it. And it's about this middle-aged, or approaching middle-aged, woman named Yoko, who is a kind of a badass drug dealer. And she has this interesting dichotomy between wanting to be Audrey Hepburn, and then other days wanting to be like Tupac, or like just, and her vice is sort of romancing younger men, um, to sort of like connect her to feeling youthful. That's sort of her way of getting there. Um, and until she meets this one younger man who sort of understands both sides of her, when she some days wants to wear a dress and her all her pearls. He treats her like a queen, and then the times another day when she throws on her chain and like blasts gangster rap, he's right there with her. So he's someone who's just sort of radical acceptance. Um, but then you still, I won't spoil it, but you still see how she resorts to some of her sabotaging ways.
That sounds very intriguing. So I'm assuming I think you're the male lead and
Yeah,
it's you
yeah.
opposite Mamie Kakimoto.
Mamie Kakimoto. Yes, yes. She's the best. Yeah.
So you're in the like kind of post-production editing stage.
Yes. Cut number one, going into cut number two, and it's going to be a long editing process because I think it's going to be one of the strangest, wildest edits I've ever done. It's going to be pretty garish and probably a little uh, visually offensive to some people. Just going to be a lot of tacked on stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see it when it's finished. Can't wait for your original work and more on that front. But we will get into heated rivalry now, and I will
Mhm.
note for all those watching that we are discussing spoilers up to the end of episode 2. So please make sure you have finished those before continuing our chat with Hudson. What can you share about your audition process and what drew you to the project and Shane Hollander?
Mm. Um, the audition process was really long. It consisted of one self-tape, one callback, and three chemistry reads. The callback was with Jacob Tierney. At first, I thought I read the network name as a smaller network than what was actually Crave. So I did a self-tape, like, oh, it's a small thing, but great writing. I would love to be a part of this, and juicy scenes. And then on the callback, I was like, okay, let me read this clearly. And then I saw Jacob Tierney. I Googled him. And then I didn't even know he was the guy behind a beloved show in Letterkenny and Shoresy, which I was a fan of. And this was an interesting sort of almost tonal shift for him, which was really cool. Um, and then getting into the chemistry reads, I read with another very good actor. And then a week later, I read with Connor over Zoom. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, okay, was it not me? What happened? I saw two other actors were auditioning for the part because I was always coming in last. And then they made us do another chemistry read with Connor for the network. And then another like week or two passed before we found out we had the part. Um, and then what was the second part of your question? Sorry. Oh,
No
what drew
worries.
me? What drew me
Yeah.
to the character and the project? Um, I would say definitely the writing. It's not often being sort of an unknown actor who's, still working a serving job or whatever that you get to audition for things that have 4 to 5 page continuous scenes that are just two characters sitting, having, a lot of conversations with a lot of depth. Um, so that felt really special. And then I was telling all my friends for a long time before the show that my dream first role would be sort of a loaded romantic drama, ideally a limited series. And I just kept saying that answer, and then this one came, so it was kind of a perfect manifestation of uh, what I kept saying I really wanted in a first big thing.
You put it out into the universe and it
Yeah.
spoke back to you. It came
Yeah.
back to you. It must have been such a special moment to find out that you booked the role. Who was the first person you told?
First person, I forget. I forget. I think I just told everyone, which I probably shouldn't have done. But oh no, no, I don't think I told many people because even once I kind of heard it was some people had already started to know. I was like, oh, Jacob at one point followed me on Instagram. So it was kind of like this, I was like this loudmouth sort of like seeping source of all this stuff I probably should have kept private. Yeah. So I think everyone kind of knew at that point.
It's something that's so exciting for you. Like this is
Mhm.
your first kind of big project. Can I ask about your own cultural background and heritage? Because we know
Mhm.
that in like the books, he is Japanese Canadian.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I am half Korean, and then my dad is, uh, I guess British Dutch Canadian, and yeah, so I felt and thankfully, or I don't know, thankfully, but in the book, it just Japanese doesn't necessarily is as much of a talking point as just being Asian Canadian. And in the scripts, it was just really Asian Canadian that was a part of it. Not to say like specificity doesn't matter, but I thought even being Asian Canadian that's the bigger, I guess, point or thing to hit. Um, and so getting to bring that was fun and um, yeah, I think it meant a lot to me and my mom, someone who my mom is Korean and she always thought it'd be harder for me to break into film and acting because she hadn't really seen anyone um that's it's pretty new that like it's Asians are leading films and TV here in North America. So then to land a role because that necessitated being Asian was I don't think something she saw coming, so that meant a lot.
I think, yeah, especially with like the mixed heritage as well, that's something that's becoming, a bit more common. And it's so nice to have it kind of showcased in a character like this on a big scale. What was your familiarity with hockey and the NHL? Although I know in the show it is Major League Hockey.
Yes, yes. It wasn't. I grew up in a hockey town, but I didn't really know much about the NHL or anything. I was a basketball boy, and fighter boy, so I did not know too much about hockey. But I think I knew the culture. I knew the type of athletes and the sort of demeanor, and I think the mindset a little bit of like hockey players who were my friends. Um, but then getting into the show, there was a lot of homework. Yeah.
I was gonna say they have the Blazers in Kamloops. I
Hmm.
think the
Hmm.
WHL team. I know you had dreams of being a UFC fighter, so that was
Yeah.
slightly different
Yeah.
realm for you. But
Mhm.
tell me about that preparation. Like, how did you prepare for the role with respect to both the physicality and on ice playing aspect, but also getting into Shane's mindset, like with the source material and any other places you took inspiration from?
Mm. Um, yeah, the physicality I knew would be demanding, especially with a lot of the muscles that just, physically go into skating that I hadn't really exercised. Um, so immediately it was just sort of get in the gym when you have any waking minute, and eat this, and this, nothing else, and then turn your brain off when it comes to food besides that, and that'll be your life for the next 3 months. Um, and then in respects to the sort of character work, it was definitely sirens are going. Um, Rachel's book was a huge like my Kindle edition, I think, has just a highlighted section on every page. And then on top of that, yeah, looking at players like Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid who sort of have this relentless drive on the ice and sort of a swagger on the ice, but then when it comes to an interview, they're sort of robotic and almost seem like a little like you can't really like they don't really seem like someone you can talk to. Sorry to those guys. And also being coming from basketball guys like Kobe Bryant who are sort of just relentless in Tom Brady, just relentless perfection of little things that will just make them 1% better and then the sort of stunting of the emotional side of things that sometimes brings along with it. Um, we're all, I think, little reference points. Um, and then also, oh, sorry, I was
So
gonna say,
go ahead.
I think little bits as like sprinkles of characters here and there, like one being Chiron from Moonlight, that character who has some of the similar sort of internalized homophobia, the push down sort of like the soul that you can feel through the eyes, but that is being so like just thwarted and just pushed down the entire film, sort of painfully so, was something also I wanted to kind of put into it.
It must be nice to kind of pull different references from, films that you enjoy as well as,
Mm.
the hockey world and obviously Rachel's novel. And you mentioned like the robotic kind of answers. And I mean, that's very true. We see that in the second episode when Hayden's kind of pretending to be the reporter, and the answers they give are
Yeah.
always the same after like
Uh-huh.
every game before every key matchup.
Mm.
In terms of, being on ice, I know you obviously had kind of stunt body doubles for some of the hockey scenes, but you still had to be on ice.
Hmm. Hmm.
So how was that for
It
you?
was fun. I think the most proud I ever was of my skating was when all those real legit hockey players were watching me and poor Connor and Francois flail around. But they once told me that if I didn't have a puck on hand and I was just skating, not too fast, they said I looked like a hockey player. So that was the best compliment I ever heard. As long as I didn't touch a puck, I looked pretty good. So that was great. And
That's
it was
all
just
you
great.
needed to hear.
That's all I needed to hear. Yeah.
I'm glad that your athleticism has improved since your days as land leopard, though.
Yes. Yes, a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Tell me
Coordinated now.
about your first meeting with Connor. I know it was the chemistry read, but how did your relationship kind of strengthen over the course of filming season one?
Mm. Yeah, it strengthened a lot. A lot of it was just, we are playing people who are each other's only sort of confidants. Um, and then also me and Connor just had a lot of references and common interests and similar approaches to the arts and film and acting that it was sort of bound. It almost felt like it was bound to be a friendship.
In the concept of pitch a friend, how would you pitch your friend Connor to a
Mhm.
wider audience?
Huh. I would pitch Connor as um, just a beautiful, sensitive little radical artist boy who is to be treated with the utmost care and only hugs and friendliness because he can't handle anything else, and that is perfect. And he has, and that has how everyone should treat him. And if they don't treat him that way, they should die.
That ended on a very dramatic
Yes,
note, but
yes. They should stub their toe. I'll change it. They
just a little
yeah,
pain.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. Mhm.
You two got matching tattoos as well after
Mhm.
finishing filming.
Yeah, yes, we did. We felt that was the cherry on top of our friendship, and it was what needed to be done.
So in the show, Shane bears a lot of weight being an Asian Canadian hockey player. How does his heritage and the pressures of being a player of color manifests itself in him?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's an extra sort of for Shane, sort of like a brick on his chest because it's another reason why he can't not be perfect on the ice. Like he has to be undeniable and exceptional. Something that I could kind of reference talking with people of color, even in this acting industry. I was talking with an actor on set, an actor of color, and he said something to the effect of, "We have to be undeniable because there's just no other option." So I think that sort of anecdote was similar to Shane, but to a more painful, I think, degree. It kind of cripples him at times, especially with all the other stuff that's mixed in with his neuroses and angst.
And we kind of see a bit of dialogue about that because he's always reminded that he'll be inspiring the next generation. And there's so much more weight to it when he's compared to people like Tiger Woods and Serena Williams. Take me through the filming of the episode one shower scene after the commercial spot. What did you want to play into as Shane with the minimal verbal dialogue?
Mm. Um, yeah, that was a fun scene to shoot. Uh, yeah, it's definitely. it's the first time Shane has been sort of looked at um, in that way without sort of shame. It's Ilya is fully comfortable with his bisexuality um, personally, so it's having someone on the other side who is sort of unashamed when it comes to that is completely juxtaposes and is the opposite of everything that Shane is and is feeling. Um, and there's equal parts of him that wants to give into it as much as, yeah, wants to run away from that.
I thought that you had to do a lot of, acting through your eyes and the physical movement because there was not a lot of words spoken between them in that scene. And then following that, there's the intimate hotel room. That was such a liberating but dangerous first experience for Shane. Tell me about his actions physically, like giving into what he wanted and that emotional push and pull for him.
Right. Yeah, physically, I think it's the only thing Shane wants to do is all that and more. Of course, there's someone who he's found the most beauty in as a person, looking at him in the same, sort of lustful way that he is, and physically, he just wants to kind of get washed away in that. Um, but then mentally, there's internalized homophobia. There's fear of, what his hockey career means, fear of what his parents would think, fear of what he tells himself that means about his own masculinity. Um, that I think there's 1,000 reasons in his head that he thinks he can't do that. Um, and then only probably one reason why he should is because it feels good. So it's a weird one to balance, but very fun as an actor.
Yeah, seeing that struggle. And what's interesting is in the book, we do get to like read more of his internal thoughts that aren't verbally shown on screen. So you kind of have to, really showcase that guilt and shame that he's going through filming your scenes through your face. How was Connor as a scene partner? And did you have discussions before that hotel room scene, like that first big step for the pair?
Yeah, Connor was the best scene partner I probably could have asked for. Someone who's just as enthused to sort of go over lines constantly, talk about the characters, the story, the nuances, from when we wake up and we're in each other's little apartments going over the lines to, right before we sleep. Um, and then, yeah, as far as the dialogue in that scene, it was like any other scene. It was obsessive and constant and sort of preparation and conversation.
Tell me about the rooftop scene to end episode one. In your eyes, what was the root of the tension for Shane and his anger towards Ilya, with Shane having just won Rookie of the Year?
Mm, yeah. Um, that scene is was one of the tougher ones to shoot just because of the sort of pain in there. And as an audience member, obviously, I see that Ilya, of course, he's up there, and of course he's justified in sort of an emotional reason, like his parents and family being the way they are. But as far as Shane's concerned, Ilya has communicated none of that. Not that he's obligated to, but Shane is completely in the dark. Ilya is communicating horribly in front of him, and he hasn't shown his face. And he's probably the only person he really wanted to see down there to sort of, be a sportsman. Because at the end of the day, Shane would. He would be down there as much as he wouldn't want to, and he would shake his hand. So it's the same thing that when Shane feels the most betrayed, he still offers the handshake. And then Ilya, instead of communication, he goes into what they had built before that and just a kiss, but it's inappropriate at that point with where Shane thinks they should be or where his heart sort of feels they should be. Um, so it's it's like obvious to me why Shane would sort of leave him there and not really want to be there. And obviously there's the public element too, they're on a rooftop.
I think like he says it too, like he pushes him away so quickly because being in public, like that is the thing that kind of scares him the most at that point in time. Like, there's so many people in the hockey world around. We will talk about episode 2 now, which I just finished watching. So we
Wow.
get to follow their budding relationship through text message at the beginning of the second episode. It's very combative and very teasing for something that started purely sexual and physical. Like, when do you think those feelings started to change for Shane, where he finds himself anticipating the next message from Lily and wanting to talk about subjects other than just being intimate?
Mm. I really think for Shane it sort of starts in the first time he sort of looked at Ilya in that way, in the shower even, it's I think even a little before that is where all those feelings come from. Um, I don't think Shane has ever looked at a man, or any person of that matter, in the way he first looked at Ilya. And I think that comes with all the feelings that Shane later pursues. Um, but I think he just feels more and more justified and secure in feeling that hopefully Ilya is feeling the same things he is to actually pursue them and open that up.
And you can see that because he tries to talk to Ilya before he leaves about like the Olympics and things like that. Like
Mhm.
he's trying to
Yeah.
to be more like of a friend, and that carries over to being in Russia. And Shane is concerned about Ilya and his well-being, but Ilya pushes him away. So how does Shane feel in that moment, standing in the arena, knowing his intentions were good and pure, but Ilya didn't want to talk about and share his feelings?
Yeah, it's that's a brutal scene. It because yeah, as far as Shane's concerned, that comes out of nowhere. It's just like unwarranted sort of aggression, um, and dismissal. It's the two most hurtful things you could feel as someone who loves another person. Um, so there's really nothing there where Shane can kind of justify, oh, maybe maybe this is he has no reference point for what could possibly going on in Ilya's life, that it's hard to empathize when there's only aggression and sort of bad 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 feelings kind of sort of coming your way.
That doesn't last too long though. They do go a
Yeah.
duration without, texting back and forth, but ultimately at the end of the day, there's this like unspoken electricity that
Yeah.
draws him towards Ilya. I think that the bathroom scene backstage at the NHL or the Major League Hockey Awards was my
Yes. Yeah.
favorite scene in the first 2 episodes because it was so tender, and seeing Shane wipe those tears away
Mhm.
after Ilya leaves, why is he getting so emotional? And what was that scene to film as kind of like a reunion between the two of them?
Yeah, that's my favorite scene as well, of those two episodes. I'm glad you liked that too. I would say it's it's at that moment I think it is sort of, even though they've had sex before and have gone very intimate, um, that scene is, intimacy without, having sex. It's soft, it's dialogue, it's connection, um, it's sort of hope that I think all the feelings where Shane is already thinking of what they could possibly be when he dares dream it. um, he's seeing a sign that that might be possible, and I think that is overwhelming. Um, and he wants to, just devour him in that moment, or get devoured. But there's also he sort of want to melt. He wants to melt into him as well, and all those things are somewhat being reciprocated after all this confusion and lack of hope in that even being possible at that point in time for him.
Yeah, and that gives him that hope. And, he says, at the end of the night after XXX
Yes,
happens, then
yes,
we can
yeah.
reunite. But yeah, that was such a good scene and so well acted by both of you. And
Oh,
the
thank you.
tear, of course, finding the emotional depth when a lot of their relationship is so teasing is something that I'm
Mm,
sure you kind of had to like reach for a bit, but getting into his mindset is so important. And I'm so excited to see the progression of their relationship. What can you tease about the remaining four episodes in the season and what viewers, but also fans of the book, can expect?
mm. I would say for fans of the book, they can expect, a lot of faithful scenes, a lot of new scenes, or an amount, a decent amount of, little moments here and there that aren't in the book. And I think for the entire audience, I would just say, um, the best and worst is yet to come.
I know you worked with an intimacy coordinator for the project, so tell me about the role they played to ensure that you felt comfortable in your scenes physically and emotionally in your own body as well as with scene partners.
Mm. Chayla, our intimacy coordinator, is amazing. And yeah, although she helped and aided in making us feel more comfortable and made that space extra safe for us, I think more than that, what she really helped with was she's almost the assistant director to the emotion and the intimacy. Not only was she just helpful in the tips and tricks to make things read and sell and look better, it was, Jacob is juggling 40 things at once. So when a moment comes in and the kiss has to be here and it means this for this moment and it comes right before this, she knows the script better than anyone. And she's just like there to push things, to turn dials up and down. Um, and she was invaluable in helping that arc in the course of our intimacy as it grows and changes and looks different. uh, she was a part of that, of the acting and the storytelling.
That's fantastic. And that role, like an intimacy coordinator, is so vital to be on sets and with when their relationship progresses, like you can see during those sexual moments, like it starts maybe a little rougher. And as
Mhm.
the story goes on, it gets a bit more tender. They share a lot more like longing looks, the
Mhm.
freckles and the crooked smile and the things that make
Mhm.
them like each other on like an outside level. As you filmed season one, were there any parts of Shane that you struggled to understand and needed to discuss with Jacob or any of the creative team? Like, was it very collaborative?
Mm. Yeah, it was very collaborative. Ideas I had or wanted to bring were never shut down or not encouraged. And as far as, yeah, not, I think Shane was a character who, soon as I read him, sort of made all the sense to me. I felt immediately a kinship and sort of an ownership um, over Shane, and I felt I was the only one. I was like, I need to be the only person to tell the story. I get it. I want to be the person to be Shane, and I want to spend time with him. And I think I'm just grateful that Jacob let me have that level of ownership and control over. He's one of those directors that trusts your character better than anyone else. Um, so that was just, an actor's dream.
Well, hockey as a sport has become more inclusive in recent years with the advocacy and voices of queer current and former players like Brock McGillis and Luke Prokop. There's still a long way to go. How will Heated Rivalry and Shane and Ilya's story inspire more conversations?
Hmm. I have no idea if if it will. I cannot predict anything. But yeah, ideally more than just, people who already share the sentiment and just love the story already. Hopefully people who maybe come in with biases or still some hangups that hopefully those can be sort of melted away through the story and yeah, the sort of power of just earnest belief that love is love and it's beautiful and it's not harmful and should be, it shouldn't be some huge thing or big hang up to be inclusive. It should be obvious.
I have a feeling it will inspire more conversations. I mean, it was just announced today, earlier today, that it
Yeah.
will be released on, HBO Max in the US and
Crazy.
Australia, and
Yeah.
some other countries have picked it up as well with release dates to be announced. So it's going to reach a lot of people, and it's so much more than just like, a good old hockey story. I think it has a lot of weight and value behind it. So I'm excited for everyone to see your work. Now, ever since the show and the cast was announced, there's been so much love and attention for you as Shane. What have you seen and what has that support meant to you?
Yeah. It I did a little perusing of what people were saying and stuff, and the 99.9% of people who are just sort of overflowing with gratitude and praise is it's insane. I was expecting like a 50-50 split of pure hatred for the casting of me, and then 50% were like, yeah, not bad. So the fact it's the majority is something that I have already been very grateful for. Um, and yeah, I'm very grateful and very surprised.
Have you seen like any of the TikTok or Instagram edits? Are you trying to stay away from all of that? Where's your
Yeah.
gauge
I
at?
I am trying, but my narcissism is running rampant with these apps and the amount of feeding into it I can do. I try to just set harsh 30-minute limits on all of them. Um, and at times I go like weeks without even feeling the urge to pick it up, which is very nice. But the times I do, I have only been sort of enthused and reassured by this really beautiful fan base.
And a lot of people also have you as their profile picture. Social media accounts, does that ever get weird to see, or you're just like, oh, I mean, that's
Yeah.
flattering?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm desensitized or disassociated from it. Um, but either way, it is strange. But I think I hate to say I'm used to it, but it's just sort of a peculiar event I just sort of take with a grain of salt. Yeah.
It's the effect of Shane Hollander and
Yes.
Rachel
Yes.
Reed's universe.
Hmm.
You are going to be meeting a lot of fans the next week. You
Yeah.
have premiere events in Toronto and Montreal. Are you excited for those?
Very excited. Yeah, it's gonna be nice because so far these fans have stayed, sort of just internet people that I don't recognize. I see the edits or whatever, um, but actually meeting them, I'm I have no clue what to expect. But so far they've always been lovely, and I'm very excited just to thank them for really, yes, fighting for this show to be on different networks and supporting it. It's yeah, without them, none of this exists. So
There's been so many like petitions and campaigns
yeah.
leading up to the announcement today. So it'll be so nice for you to get to see some of these friendly faces in
Mhm.
person. Being a Vancouver local, what are your Vancouver recommendations for those visiting the city for the first
Mhm.
time? Like, what does Hudson's perfect day in Vancouver look like?
Damn. Skip the Steam clock because that stuff that's so stupid. Like it's a dumb clock. Everyone has a clock. It's not even run by Steam. Uh, sound is kind of annoying. But without shitting on the Steam clock anymore, I would say The Capilano Suspension Bridge is pretty cool. Um, Stanley Park, do the seawall, but don't walk it because it's too long. Rent an e-bike or an e-scooter, which I prefer, and you can rip it in 30 minutes, which is the ideal time. Um, and then if you're coming in the summer, Kids Beach. And for my ideal day, it would definitely, if it was fall, you hike somewhere in North Vancouver or past there, and then you do a little gym, you walk Main Street or Commercial, um, or Kits, and then you go see a movie at the Park or Fifth Avenue theaters. I think those are my favorites, or Landmark and New West, which is where I am right now. Um, and then you just chill out and then you enjoy the nature.
I mean, where are you getting your Korean fried chicken, sushi, and deep dish pizza
Ah,
in Vancouver?
Korean fried
I
chicken.
think you forgot the food.
I know, I know, that's bad. Deep dish. I've forgotten the names of both the Korean fried chicken place I like. I know if you want Korean barbecue, I like Cook, which is really good. I like Big Way Hot Pot. It's very commercial now, but I love some hot pot. For sushi, I like Miku. Deep dish. It's somewhere around Main Street that has like a Chicago style deep dish, and it's so gluttonous and greasy and perfect. And maybe I'll follow up so you can plug the names in and the Korean fried. I have two places. I forget the name
I
of.
feel like it's just so like familiar to you that you're just like, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah,
I forgot what it's
I
called.
know. I know. I know where it is. I don't know. Yeah.
I will add the names if this
Yeah,
gets
please. If
bad.
they can just
I
pop
mean,
up, that
yeah,
would be a real great.
exactly what Hudson's talking about
Yes.
here, here, and
Yes.
here.
Yes.
On the topic of food, I have one more question for you, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Okay. I'm gonna be a hog and choose multiple. Um, and I'm gonna say one of them is cotton candy ice cream because I can be a little juvenile at times. And then I'll throw in um, maybe like a rocky road where you're just surprised with the crunch out of the blue, which feels true to myself. And then I'll cap it off with like an espresso because I can be a little bit of a pretentious piece of garbage sometimes. And then maybe I'll throw in a tiger stripe. What is it? Tiger, that one, because it's just like you never know what you're gonna get. And then I'll just throw that into like a weird Neapolitan pile of ice cream that no one asked for. Hmm.
I thought you were gonna say like a four scoop, but you actually want to mix it together, a
Yeah.
la like marble slab or
Yes.
what those
Yeah.
places used to do.
Yeah. When they like get it on that cold plate and they do the yeah, yeah. Yes, that's the answer.
I mean, that's very creative. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Perfect way to end things off. Hudson, from what I've seen so far, you have brought a passion and fragility to Shane. So I can't wait to see you shine in the remainder of the episodes and more of your original work in the near future. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Yes, thank you, Chloe. That was great.
Of course, hopefully we can catch up in the future, but until
Yes,
then,
absolutely.
for all those watching, the first two episodes of Heated Rivalry are streaming now on Crave on HBO Max in the US and Australia. New episodes drop on Crave on Fridays, and we will see you next time.
Okay. Bye.